Well, good morning. I'm happy to be on the call, too. I'm excited to be here. I gave a call last night, and I did it through Bill Whiteley and Dr. Shaw's group, and we talked about some of the things that I'm going to embellish upon today, but we're going to take it to a little different step here today since you started out with the triangle of life. And you have to understand that what we're going to talk about today is biology, but it's really a matter of physics also, and I'll explain how that works. If you understand one thing, in physics, they say for every reaction, or every action, there's a reaction, okay? Now, we understand that, and we've heard that before and can accept it, but that is so true when you come to the biology of your human body. For every action, there is a reaction. If you have oxidative compounds or free radicals entering your body, they oxidize, they corrode, they destroy, they decay your body. That's the reaction to that. Now, with that, you have the action, the reaction. Now, to that reaction, which in itself is an action, then you can come back the other way, and you can come in with antioxidants and mutagenic repair agents, things like that. So you can take that which has been decayed and restore much of it or prevent it from going any further. So this is like almost a tennis match, back and forth, back and forth. But what we can do is, if we think about it, and I like what you said today about common sense, because common sense is uncommon. Fortunately, if it's explained to most people, we can grasp it and pick up on it. I think of Einstein when he, in World War II, before World War II, when it was coming along, he sent a letter to the President of the United States. And, of course, then he contacted. But can you imagine that he wrote a letter to the president, and he talked about the atomic bomb and what could be done, the things he had that he needed to discuss it. Can you imagine putting that in the mail and sending that off today, Mike? That's what he did. But anyway, he went and talked to him and explained this. But quite frankly, Einstein hadn't completely thought of this. This was sent to him from fellow scientists that were working for Germany, and they were working on an atomic bomb. They're far into it, and we hadn't even started with it, and they were getting alarmed, and they got the information out to him. So he went through and he explained it and set it down and talked to the president, of course, who knew nothing. He's not a scientist. So they bring a bunch of the top scientists in physics in, and they don't comprehend what he's saying, and he laid it out for them in terms that you could see as a matter of physics. And when he showed them what would happen with the reactions and the equations that he had, those are things they had already seen. Those are things that they knew of, but they hadn't put the collective pieces together. And once he showed them how atomic fusion or fission occurs within it, they said, why didn't we see it? It was there all the time for us. We just never saw it. Well, Einstein identified it. Did he think of it? I don't know. I don't care much. But the important thing is he was a great instrument in doing it. But other people were way ahead of it for working for Nazi Germany at that time. So that thing was always amazed me, that how the scientists were not so necessarily so surprised in what it could do, but that it was right there in front of their faces, and they never identified it. That's common sense, you see, because sometimes people get, and this is very common with people, we're dedicated to certain things, and we have a certain lifestyle, and we're doing things to make our lives the best or most efficient that we think that it can be according to ourselves, our genetics, our environment, all of those things that are factors in our life. However, if you want something to really have merit in your life, you have to make a change. If you're not happy where you're at, if you're content where you're at, that's one thing. But if you are, you're in the wrong place, because you really ought to be on the point of where that which you're doing, you're a little uncomfortable in. Because what does that mean? You're growing, because pretty soon you'll be comfortable in it, and then you'll be in the wrong place again. So you need to keep growing, progressing with it. Well, our health is the same way. So if you take a look at the triangle of life, it was an evolutionary process to get those products for it. Now we have Fucoidan, we have Eternity, we have Spectramax. And there was a way of which I found all of those in the research that I was doing, which started in the 1980s on it. The first thing I discovered was the resveratrol molecule that was I'm discovering what other people have discovered. So I'm sort of like these physicists with Einstein, and they have found something. Here it is. I identify it, and I bring it out. And so in my previous company, I found this ingredient, and it was part of a traditional Chinese medicine. And so the results and the studies and the things that I saw were so impressive that I tried it, and I was even more impressed by the fact that it worked right there. And here's something that went back. It was even logged in before the Yellow Emperor's book, which was published over 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years before Christ. So that this kind of knowledge was known, but it's just getting to us today, really. So I brought a product out, and we did very well. It was one of our very best-selling products in the entire company. Growing is one that I took until I started Sisel. And so with that, we grew in it because it could do some things. The thing that caught my attention was not necessarily the scientific nature of it. That validated what it was, but here's the common sense. Here's the basics in it. It said that if you take the product, that you will sleep better, awake more rested, you will have less stress, you won't tire, and you won't fatigue. And I thought, wow, that's my hot button. Every one of those is my hot button. I'd like to sleep less. I'd like to wake more refreshed. I'd like to have more energy. I would like to not overcome stress and have all of these things going for me collectively. Can one pill do it? Well, the pill has a number of ingredients in it, but the primary one was resveratrol, and yes, it could do it. It did it, and it surprised me, the results of seeing what I had read, what I had studied, come to reality within my body. Now, you have the same kind of thing happening with you and different people that are around you, many people that are new, that are into the company. They come in, they get started, and the problem is they expect a quick turnaround. This is not like something like you have an infection and you take an antibiotic and it's gone in a matter of a week or so. This is the thing that is the biology of aging is not a biology. It is a matter of physics. And so we're going to talk about those things today. Now, within your body, you have your body at one time was only one cell. Okay? Now, if you take that one cell, it was a stem cell. And out of that, it created 40 trillion cells that make up your body today. In DW's case, it might be 75 or 80. But for the rest of us, it's 40 trillion cells that are in our body. They are created all from the single stem cell, which it in itself, because of the God-given genetic programming that he put into it, that it went out and it created about 220 different groups of stem cells, different types for everything. So it can take care of the hair on the tip of your head to the toenails on the end of your feet and everything in between. All those are created by stem cells, because just like your car engine will wear out with use, your body wears out with use. There's an action, there's a reaction. So as you have energy, you get that from fuel you eat, glucose, and it goes through quite a process, and you have energy that comes out of it. With that energy is depleting in some areas and creates oxidation, which is oxidative stress is a major cause of aging. You don't need to know all those things, but you need to understand the basics and the fundamentals behind them, so we can be on the same page. Because here's where we're going to. The Chinese have a saying that they say the human body has the ability to live to a great length of time, not of age, of time, at a very young age, if you give it the proper nutrients that it needs to function and remove the toxins and the waste. Now, that's something all of you should think about, because the Chinese thought about this probably 7,000 or 8,000 years ago, and they've evolved on it. Now, today, modern science is picking up on a lot of those and a lot of new things that are not just from China, but Chinese medicine has been one of the most fundamental things for doing it. But there's medicine out of India, which is quite extensive, European medicine, some from the Americas, South America, but overall the Chinese medicine's had the greatest impact, because that civilization so concentrated on doing it, and it's right there in front of our faces, but we have to find it, see it, use it. And the key to being successful in this business for regenerating your health is time. It's persistence. You need to keep with it. If you have a belief factor, then you need to follow that belief instead of saying, oh, I've taken it for a month, I don't feel any different. Well, some things you'll take for a month and you won't feel any different. Some things you'll take for the rest of your life and you'll never feel any different. But what is happening within your body is profound. And so all of these things come together in a variety of ways. And what I try to do with Sisel is take them and put them in an easy-to-use format so that I can take the scientific information and the things, put them together, build synergistic formulations, and then give it to you in a matter. You're not a scientist. You don't want to be. I don't want you to be. But what you are is a marketer, and you have to have something that's marketable in a form that's easy for you to use and duplicate. So that's why we put some of these things in the systems we have. Now we have the triangle of life. Eternity came from that ancient Chinese medicine. The second one that came out was Fugoiden. And it came out almost simultaneously because as I went into China about 1988, I believe it was. When I went in there to get, I had done a lot of correspondence, hired Chinese, sent them over, had them back, because I was so impressed with the philosophy, and it wasn't known throughout our cultures here in America, in the Americas or in Europe, and so I wanted to know the why of it. And so I did, and I learned. And as I went there, I found they had a second product that had great effects too, that they wanted. At that time, China was in terrible shape, and they desperately wanted business. And so they threw some things out for me to look at, and maybe some pretty spectacular proposals at one time. But with that, they had a product, they called it Virgin Mother's Milk. And why they called it that is because when a baby is born, for about the first 3 or 4 days up to about a week, the mother's milk produces very high levels of biological agents that are extremely powerful to get the body going and to build up the immune system, because you come out of the protected environment of the womb in the cold, cruel world, and the baby now has to function on that. And it takes a while to build the baby up, so mother's milk provides that kind of thing. And as a consequence, the Chinese observed that a certain extract from a certain type of seaweed, if concentrated, would, within a short period of time, within less than a week, or a week or so, would bring the immune system up to the level of a newborn baby. Yeah, we're talking about, you're talking about somebody, 70, 80, 90 years old, like DW, he can have the immune system of a baby, you see? So that kind of thing is powerful, but the body is there to do that. The problem is it does it when you're a baby, but it takes that from mother's milk to do it, so now that's done. So here you have a supplement the Chinese have found that will do just the same thing. So do you want your immunity at an all-time high level? Well, the potential to do that is found in Fugoiden. Now we've gone beyond that with some other things too. Now we have Avenger, which is actually more specific in some of the things that it does, and of course it has Chaga. We have Chaga in our coffee that we have, because it is of all the funguses in the world, this is the only one that has animal-like proteins in it. Other fungus like reishi, mushi, shiitake, things of that nature are Ganoderma. Those types of mushrooms are all plant-based, but with Chaga, about a third of it is animal-based, and yet it's a plant. So the transitionary power of the Chaga carries over into our bodies even better than it does with the mushrooms. In fact, there's a research association in Japan and Korea, and they say that Chaga is the king of mushrooms. They say it's over 100 times more effective than Ganoderma, which is reishi, which is really one of the most widely sold mushrooms is there. But they are correct. But Chaga hasn't been easy to get. But now we are found to get it. Russia actually developed it beyond anybody that was there, and then it metamorphosed down into China, but it came out of Russia to start with. So anyway, we've taken Chaga. What did we do with Chaga? Well, we threw it in our coffee. We threw it in our Avenger. on top of things because it takes it even more. So then you go back and you say, I can add this on to Fucoidan with it, and what happens? My overall immunity comes up to that of a newborn baby, and here are now these powerful support ingredients that come in and have dynamic effects on the many different facets of immunity and health and regeneration within this area of immunity. Now that gives you one idea there on Fucoidan. The other one was, of course, eternity. And out of eternity, it evolved on. And then pretty soon a researcher from out of, I don't know all of the places, but out of Harvard Medical School, they started taking a look at it. And they saw the incredible power. And it really, that came in a back door. It came because in France, they're doing a survey of people to find out what types of conditions and lifestyle and diseases affected them. And they found out that the French had less heart attacks and less cardiovascular disease than people did of other races. Not the English, but the French. Not the Germans, but the French. Not the Americans, but the French. And the reason why was that they drank red wine. Now, it had nothing to do, of course, with the alcohol, which is negative, but nonetheless, with that, they said that the French actually should have more heart attacks, more cardiovascular disease, because they do drink alcoholic wine, and they eat more fatty foods than any other race on earth. So their risk should be the highest, and yet it's the lowest. What's the deal? And so they went in and they found out it was resveratrol in red wine that was doing it. In fact, as it made the heart, and the University of Connecticut come in and said, resveratrol makes the heart cardioprotective. It's a cardioprotectant for the heart. In other words, and they came in and they said, if you have a heart attack, the damage doesn't come from the heart attack, it comes from the effects after it. So if the effects after it don't happen, then the heart attack is like a no harm, no foul type situation. And that is how the University of Connecticut tested it and brought it out for that one single aspect of doing that. So with that, that was something else. You bulletproof yourself against heart attacks. If you did have it, it doesn't mean you're going to not have one, but if you do have one, no damage or very little damage might occur from it, which is really true, and inflammation is a big part. I won't go through all those aspects of it. But with that, here was this dynamic ingredient. Well, immediately, what does medicine do? They want to make something. They want to find a synthetic molecule, make it, and then they want to turn around and put out a very expensive, overpriced pharmaceutical, cost you a fortune, they make a fortune, and inconvenient with side effects up the gazookie. That's the only technical way I have of saying side effects of pharmaceuticals is that you have side effects up the gazookie that you have little or no way of controlling. If you watch the advertisements on TV, you find out most of the advertisement, the first little part tells a little bit about it, but about 3/4 of the time spent for the advertisement playing on TV is talking about all of the harmful ingredients, and they do everything they can to distract your eyes and the music and everything away from what they're actually saying that it will do to you. Yes, it does this, it can support this for doing it, but it can kill you, it can cause cancer, it can cause diabetes, but those kinds of things. Side effects. It can increase cholesterol. It can cause your blood to hemorrhage and all of those factors. And they talk about them as you see a grandpa and grandma with their grandkids running to them, or they're throwing a ball on the beach to a dog, and those all to take your idea away or your mind away from the fact that this product you're using for this has some very dangerous side effects. But the one thing about natural medicines is they're far beyond that. Now, you can call them natural medicines. Complementary natural medicines is what the FDA likes to call it. I think that makes some sense, but I also realize that what they're trying to do is they're trying to baby step us in to, and this is my opinion, of course, but baby step us into the point of where now they can regulate dietary supplements the same way they do pharmaceuticals. Then pharmaceutical companies are going to take a move on them to make the massive amount of money and restrict them, be sold only through their channels. And that's what's happened. It's a matter of economics. But I think you would all agree with me, that we should have the right to know to choose to use products that are good for us. We should have the right to know. We should have the right to choose them. We should have the right to use them. Those are our God-given rights, and they're trying to take them away. But fortunately, we have things like DSHEA, that's their Supplemental Health Education Act, which allows us to do that. But that had to be legislated in 1994 because Big Pharma was going to put vitamins and any other type of supplement that you wanted as a restricted compound you could only buy from a facility that had a licensed pharmacist in it. Well, thank goodness we had some people in Washington that had some sense at that time, and as a consequence, we have that to protect us. But the FDA is trying to encroach on that as much as they can. Why? Because what you don't realize is Big Pharma is where they make their money. In fact, it is about half of the money that you spend for a pharmaceutical product goes back in kickbacks to pharmaceutical companies, to doctors, to things like that. Now, don't you think we should have our medicine for the lowest price possible? Yeah, we do, but no, the pharmaceutical companies know if they pay people back, they can bribe them. Here's bribery. Here's quid pro quo that we're looking for right there. They can bribe the doctors. They can bribe the pharmaceutical companies, all of these people with it, and that's what we're fighting. But still, we do have the right to know to choose, but we have to put that to you and have to put it in the right way. So many of the things that I talk about, we have to say supports this system, supports that. Because the word support is more ambiguous than it stimulates. You know, it activates. Those things, the FDA says, oh, those are drug claims. You have a natural ingredient, you're making a drug claim, therefore it's illegal, there will come after you. And they've done that with numbers of different companies. So the art of this business is making almost some powerful, natural, complementary medicines, natural, can't say drugs because I don't want to say it that way, natural medicines of immense power with little or no side effects. Almost none of them have side effects. With them, the side effects are good effects instead of bad effects with these natural prescription medicines. And so in comparison with the natural one versus the prescription medicine. But with that, we have an opportunity here to go places that no one has ever gone before because of the way that our company and things are set up. So as our product line developed, we came along, we had Eternity, we had Fucoidan, and then another one that I brought in, the third one, which makes up the Triangle of Life, is Spectromax. And many of you will probably remember the name Linus Pauling. He won 2 different Nobel Prizes in 2 different categories, the only person that's ever done that. Brilliant scientist, and he said he was a very strong advocate of vitamin C and what it could do. And of course, this was early on before technology was as nearly advanced as it is now. But vitamin C, very good antioxidants used in so many biological processes in our body, so having it is important. He advocated, but the one thing, and he became pretty famous for advocating taking large doses of vitamin C. But along the way, he came to a realization that our body, through its different biological processes, require things to make it work. Now, certainly people knew that. He did too, but he found out some specific things like essential trace minerals were absolutely vital for about over 2,000 biological processes that take place in your body. And they call them essential trace minerals is because they are essential to these biological processes. And because they are trace minerals, your body cannot make them. They are inorganic, so they're either in the soil or they're not. And when crops are harvested, it gets depleted of these essential trace minerals. So now that soils that are growing the food for us today are 75% deficient in essential trace minerals and essentially nutritional values too. So we've lost 75% of the power of the support that our biological needs of our body are because we've just farmed them out. I mean, and farmers are not going to put them back into the soil. That's expensive. They don't get any more crop or anything else like that. They just fertilize it. So this crop that wouldn't grow so good, this carrot that wouldn't be so big, just balloons up, and yet the nutritional value of this large carrot or apple or potato or whatever it is 25% of what it should be in it. So that leads us to the point of we need to supplement. So Linus Pauling said, you can trace almost every disease due to trace mineral deficiency. That's a very profound statement. Now, I made that 25, 30 years ago, but it was very profound. I saw that, I looked at it, and so I immediately went in and I pioneered bringing out essential trace minerals, and I found lots of things about them and how to make them more effective. And trace minerals, like most minerals, are not very absorbable. So I found out how does nature do it? How does a tree absorb a rock? And how does your wheat or your peaches or whatever it is take calcium out of the soil? Well, it does, because it won't take it, but it takes it. I won't go through the whole symbiotic relationship, but a thing called organic fulvic acid. Organic. In other words, it combines with it. Now it takes an insoluble mineral and makes it highly soluble, and it will even hit receptors in the stem cells to take it in, or not in every cell to take it in, so that now these vital essential trace minerals that are necessary for 2,000 different biological functions are all there, and if they're not there, the function either fails or it goes into hold until it becomes available. So by simply supplementing with SpectrumX, you flood it with all of the essential trace minerals, 74 different types of them, all organically chelated, where they go from about 3% bioavailability to between 91 and 97% bioavailable, because I'm doing it right with what's been discovered. I discovered organic fulvic acid. No, well, I didn't. I discovered who had discovered it and what it could do, and I knew what it could do, and I could see it in front of me. It was exposed to me. I can see if you add it with essential trace minerals, what do you have? Now you have the immense power. How do you think plants absorb it? The roots secrete organic fulvic acid. It's a symbiotic relationship. It combines with the minerals. Microorganisms feed on it and secretes the organic fulvic acid and or sugars, and then it attaches to it, and as osmosis up the nutrients in the water come in the plants, so do all these essential trace minerals wouldn't be there, and that's the way it works. But since we have lost most of that because of over-farming, what do we need to do? We need to supplement, okay? So I made SpectrumX. Then I took a look at that along the evolutionary path. As we were going, I looked at antioxidants were becoming, Linus Pauling talked about vitamin C. And vitamin C is the barometer of all antioxidants. It has antioxidant power of 1. You have to have a basis of something. It's just like size of molecules. It's all based on the hydrogen atom, which has the molecular weight or size of 1. So if you took oxygen, which is about 15, you would say, well, one oxygen atom is 15 times bigger than hydrogen atom, see, with it. So, but that's really talking about size with what's there. In oxidative power, it is a certain ingredient, and how many free radicals, free radicals are oxidizers like rust, how many free radicals will this antioxidant consume? And they found out, well, gee, here's vitamin C at 1, but there's a number of things that were 20, 30, 40 that were there. Pine bark was the good one because it came out about 40, and then somebody went into grapeseed extract and got another compound that was out of it, oligomeric proanthocyanidins. See those names, you don't want to know them. You want to know what they can do. But anyway, out of grapeseed extract, they found this compound, and it was 180 times more powerful than vitamin C. But which is the best? Well, actually, vitamin C is used for a lot of different things, and the OPCs, as this is abbreviated, is used for a lot of different things. So there's a lot of different functionalities. So if you have vitamin C on one end, and then you have the other one, the OPCs on the other at 180, what's in between, and what did they do? And are they covering over in the same things, or do they have different effects for different types free radicals there? And the answer is they do have different effects. They found out free radicals, which they had no idea of even 25 or 30 years ago. They find out there's about 2,200 different categories of free radicals. Now that's families. So there's many kinds within that. And so if you take an antioxidant, says, oh, I'm on an antioxidant. I want to take one to fight free radicals. Oh, which portion of those do you want to fight? Because the ones that you don't get are going to get you. They're going to cause cancer. They're going to deteriorate your health. They're going to cause aging. They're going to damage your eyes, your tissues, all of that. So which ones do you want to get, and which ones don't you care about? You know, well, the logic in that, of course, we care about all of them. I care about all of them. That's why SpectraMax is so powerful, because I have the 74 essential trace minerals, all chelated with organic fulvic acid, and I have 40 different varieties of antioxidants that covers the whole spectrum, in my opinion, of all the 2,200 different families of free radicals to neutralize them, where the bottom reaction after the neutralization takes place, and I've developed the formulation to do this, that it follows the chain, because sometimes if you neutralize a free radical, it will create another one. And if you neutralize it, it'll create another one. And if you neutralize that, it can create another one. It's called the cascading effect. So this thing ain't simple, folks. But with it, we got the science to do. We just have to think about it, put it together, and make it happen. I don't see anyone doing it other than really us. There's some things done on a minuscule basis, but not to the significance of what we're doing. So when we have this, we turn around and we take these 40 different types of antioxidants, and we literally cover the 2,200 different groups. They're just eating, destroying, oxidizing, doing damage to your health. And we follow the cascade all the way down to where the last chemical reaction releases water. How's that? That's a lot to say about one product, isn't it? And that's SpectraMax. So you can see why they're so fundamental with the Triangle of Life, with Fucoidan, and with SpectraMax. And we thought, and that was the way we were building our company as we went on, because at that time, with those things that we bought, it was and produced, it was the best of science that's there, but science is progressing. You wouldn't want to take, you can go buy a new car, 2020. Would you buy that, or would you like to buy a 1980? There's a big difference between them, or a 1930, you see? And it's that way in science and nutrition and natural medicines, and that's what I'm heavy into. And I have, fortunately, and I feel I'm blessed, God has given me a great talent to be able to understand the science of these things and put it together in a very unique way. And with that, I have an anomaly. In fact, I was tested by one of the largest chemical companies in the world when they hired me, and they said, in the science category, you're off the chart. They said, but in the sales category, you're off the chart too. We have thousands of scientists. Nobody has ever had the aptitude you have. We have all of these thousands of salesmen. You have the highest aptitude in it. They said, we don't know whether they're hiring or not. And I said, why? They said, because those personalities don't go together. Oh, well, they do in me. I said, I'm like Popeye. Think of me like Popeye. I am what I am because that's what I am. And because of that, I can become very successful because I understand some of the basic fundamentals of selling, of science. I can blend them together. And from that, I became their #1 salesman in the world. And while I was in my 20s, I was their national sales manager with that. Now, those are God-given things that you have that you can work with. And God has given all of us many different talents. If you, there was a very famous Oklahoman, I forgot his name now, but he was a comedian, but a very wise philosopher too, and he said, the quote, the name just escapes me right now, but anyway, the quote was, he said, I've never met a man that wasn't better at something than I am, or I was. And that is really true. We all have our own individual talents. So we have to take what can be given to us and use it in our best way. And if you lack in talent, guess what? You can make it up in effort. But as you make it up in effort, you also improve your talent as it goes along. So it's a synergistic thing. The problem is if you stop. You see, even if you're progressing slowly, you're making progress and you're getting ahead. But when you stop, you meet failure fast. And so as a consequence, you'll never go on when you quit. But if you do go on, whatever pace you can do it, and the more you do it, the faster your pace will increase. And with the beautiful business model we have with network marketing, we've taken the best out of capitalism and marketing for people. We've taken it away from the corporations and the big companies and the shareholders and the investors and the stockholders and all those other kinds of things, and we pour it back to you. And I've dedicated myself. I put most of my fortune into this company. I sold my other company and had a lot of money, bought things that I wanted and all that, but I put over $100 million into this company, and I don't think I'll ever get the money back. I don't care because I don't need it. But what I do need is to do good and great things with my life, and that's why I'm doing it. So I'm telling you that so you can have some security. You're not going to see Tom Mower retire. And in fact, just when they bury me, I'm probably going to have a product that will resurrect me so I can come back and get to work. Don't even take me out of the office. Just leave the casket there. I'll be back. But that's a little stupid. But nonetheless, that's how I feel about this thing. The way that I get paid in this company is with your success in making you happier, healthier, and wealthier. And the whole company is dedicated towards doing that. So now I've covered what DW wanted me to cover on the Triangle of Life. But then there's things you can add to it, because you know what? You have 220 different stem cells. That means they're making hundreds or thousands of different structures within your body. Do you know in your brain right now you have 60,000 calculations going on all the time, 24/7? Yeah, that's a huge amount. How do those calculations get made? They get made with electrical energy. How do the electrical energy get made? It gets made through a thing called the Krebs cycle, which takes it up through a product we've heard of called NAD, which is what the age pill is designed to be a precursor to support the body so you can increase massive amounts of NAD, because the NAD then goes through some steps in the cycle to where it releases. The second to last step is it releases what science now calls, in a few select quarters, this is so new, they call it biological hydrogen. And so biological hydrogen then, in the process of doing that, is converted into electrical energy. So if you go all the way back to the sun, you think that no life on Earth can exist without sunlight. Well, what is sunlight? Well, it's mostly hydrogen. There's different wavelengths and light waves and things of this nature that are in it. But hydrogen is the thing that makes all life on Earth possible. And it's in all the food that we eat. And so when that hydrogen comes down from the sun, it has that massive energy, and we can create all the structures and functions and everything within our body. But as we get older, our body is decaying. Now, decay is a matter of physics. That's aging. Aging is physics, not biology. Aging is simply this. It's decay and degeneration. Nothing more. It's not a disease. The FDA doesn't consider it a disease. So if you can end aging, if you can end the decay, if you can increase regeneration, then what are you going to do? You've ended aging. But then if you do it significantly enough, now you get on the path, on the road that leads towards immortality, and you can be flying along it with the science that's here, and we've got that science to the very best that we believe that has been developed, and it's out, and more is coming out, and we're working on it continuously, because I am impassioned to do this with you, to give you the kinds of things, these God-given ingredients. They've been here. Now we're discovering, we're knowing we can use those, but what does it take? It takes money, resources, ability, all that to put that together. I've got all that for us. We have one of the largest chemical or manufacturing plants in America, in the world, with it. It's debt-free. We don't owe anybody anything. So we make products. I'm making for hundreds of other companies. I'd never sell one of them through my company, because we make money off doing it. It gives us more buying power, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we do private labeling. But the reality of it is, Sisel is my baby. The other is too that does it. But I'm not so concerned with that, because that's just regular business in dietary supplements. And they're selling mediocre products that are overhyped and underperformed. That's the way they are. That's why I wouldn't take one of their formulas to do it. But with Sisel, it takes a lot of money to make these ingredients. And so if you took $1 in ingredients that you put in a company's product, then we would sell it to them for $3 or $4 when it was done. Well, okay, so that's the profit margin you make on doing it. So what I do with Sisel is I take that $3 or $4 that's there and I put it all into ingredients because I don't need the profit margin for that. That explains to you exactly why we can build these spectacular, dynamic, incredibly powerful products that no other company on planet Earth has that are equal to it. There can be bits and pieces here and there, but what we have is a collectiveness, a synergy that comes together in massive proportions with whatever we're working at. And just like the Triangle of Life has all that support we talked about, but look at brain vitality. Brain vitality is so important. Why? Because you take a breath in, don't you? Did you realize if it wasn't for your brain, you'd only have to breathe about 2 times a minute? But the brain uses 30% of all your oxygen. It only weighs 1.5% of your body. Why does it use 1/3 of all the oxygen that comes into your body? It's because there's so many metabolic calculations processes going on. You have 40 trillion cells, and now they found out just within the last year or so, they're all interconnected to each other. And there are 3 different levels that they have now discovered beyond the one of where electrical communication, intercellular communication, intertissue circulation goes through and connects it all back into the brain. So the brain is this master computer. If you took 100 of the world's biggest computers in the world and you put them all together, its computation power is not adequate to that which is going on in your brain. So we have an immense amount of things that are going on there, and because of that, it takes a lot of nutrients, takes a lot of energy, creates a lot of oxidation, which is damaging with it, and the brain wears out. There you see, at a certain point, Alzheimer's kicks in, dementia kicks in, and the Alzheimer's Society said everyone in their lifetime will have dementia, and 50% will get Alzheimer's. Well, that's what they say because of what they know and what they're doing. But you know what? Science says otherwise. Science says the potential to prevent, and I can't say prevent, that's not a legal thing for me to say, but to avoid Alzheimer's or dementia is not just possible, it's highly possible and probable if you do the right things with it. Now, it's a complex thing, and the brain runs on this huge amount of oxygen, but it needs magnesium as a big equation of it to make it run, and the brain is very deficient in magnesium, and it's the most difficult material for you to take into your body. It doesn't absorb well. It has that's why they have things like milk of magnesia. It's a laxative because it just irritates the colon and releases the body waste with it. It's not very absorbable, but the brain needs it. The brain has to get some. So what we've done, we found 2 different forms of which can come in to support brain vitality in so many other ways. One of it we have in brain vitality, the magnesium threonate, and it is extremely it's the most bioavailable compound, I believe, in the world that we put into it. So we can put copious amounts of magnesium to support all of these biological functions in your brain with brain vitality. And then we have the H2 stick. The H2 stick flat out does nothing but split the oxygen molecule, H2O. It creates oxygen and creates hydrogen, which binds together, H2. And it's called diatomic hydrogen. And so now you have water, which has now become hydrogen enriched or diatomic enriched hydrogen. When you take a drink of that, guess what? You got 40 trillion cells that are all desperate for hydrogen. They use it. It's in the foods. It's in the biological processes. It's in all the energy. But we get older. Now you take a drink of this, and because it's the smallest molecule in the universe, it goes through everything. Not even lead can contain it, so it goes through every single part of your body and enriches the hydrogen stores that are there so it can support even greater health. And it's a lot more than just energy. If you look at the studies they found on what energy does with so many physical conditions that people have, it is really quite shocking. And when I looked at the thing, there are 15 or 20 studies. Now there's about 1,200 studies on it. It's getting a fury in the scientific world, but not so much out in the marketing world, but I've seen it. I've done some very top people in the Molecular Hydrogen Institute are friends of mine. They've spoken, I've spoken. We have this connection going on because hydrogen is such a dynamic molecule, and it comes from the sun. It is what makes the sun shine within us. And so hydrogen water has a dynamic part too. So you look at that, and then you go into brain vitality. Well, you have so many different conditions in the brain. You have a tau protein that creates Alzheimer's. Well, the brain has the ability to keep the tau protein from functioning, and if you avoid certain types of things in your food, or if you put certain types of things, supplements or food, if you could eat enough of it, into your body, the tau protein may not form. Well, if it may not form, you may not have Alzheimer's. Dementia is really a case of erosion, corrosion, oxidation. With that going on, because you take this huge amount of oxygen and it's used to oxidize glucose, which is like gasoline in a car engine, but glucose in your cells, and as it oxidizes it, it releases free radicals. Those free radicals are so damaging because of the massive amount of activity going on in your brain. Here you have the ability now to take a supplement that Shazam, it stops that kind of thing, or provides, it doesn't stop it itself, it supports the biological systems that fight it, that stop it. And the brain, like the Chinese philosophy, you go back to it, it has the ability to repair, regenerate, maintain itself if you provide the proper nutrients to it and you can remove the toxins and the waste. You're doing it. We're doing it in spades with the brain vitality. But when you throw in the triangle of life, when you throw in diatomic hydrogen, what do you have? You've got more of it to give you more of what you want to be. And then we come from out of the blue, just like a meteorite from outer space. In comes NAD, and Harvard Medical School is saying this is the immortality molecule. They run down to NASA and said, this will repair mutagenic damage. This is the factor that it gets so depleted with age, and as it does, stem cells which are producing start wearing out, and they go into senescence and then become dormant. They become senescent with it. Now with the ones that are still there, we can revitalize them by adding precursors in that will produce more NAD. And with that, now you can send somebody to Mars. Isn't that a story? How does it work out? They're doing that, and now they're talking to them about sending somebody to Mars. Well, the solar radiation that is there is if you had a mission that went to Mars and they lived there for a few years, nobody would come back. They'd all be dead from solar radiation. When they go up, if an astronaut is in space for about a year, they come back and they've aged about 5 years because of that type of damage. But with NAD, it repairs the damage as it occurs. So it makes sense if it's degenerated and it can't repair, and you increase the production of it, then the systems are there to repair it. It needs it. That makes logical reasons. So here now they're trying to make a prescription drug out of it because it's a natural ingredient. Guess where NAD came from? Came clear out of the Chinese emperor's book, up through the research that we came out into resveratrol that Harvard University was studying because it was so dynamic. They found that it activated what they call sirtuin genes, but only a couple of them. But now they found NAD activates all 7 of them. It's happening every day in your body. And so now while resveratrol has enormous effects in some ways, especially cardioprotective and things like that, and gets through the blood-brain barrier for oxidation, here you come along and you have an immense power that is the power of the sun that is in every single cell in your body, which is diminishing. The light is flickering. It's going out, folks. And here are the ones that are left. The bulb isn't burned. You know, when the light bulbs out, the filament breaks with it. When the filament breaks, the light's dormant. Well, that's what happens to the stem cell. It gets to the point of where it can't function. It becomes dormant. It's not dead. It's just sitting there. It's called senescent. And in the rate of decay, it's called senescence. So here NAD comes in and takes senescence and turns it up. But what's happened in your lifetime is you're accumulating a field of dead flowers, and those are senescent, dormant stem cells. And they aren't just dead and inactive, they ooze toxins, the worst kinds, the kinds that cause cancer and diseases and all of those kinds of things that are so damaging to the human body. And the reason they're doing it, they think, is to get the immune system to come in and kill them. Because if you can kill them because they've worn out, it has the ability to sprout a new one. Just like when you're a child, you lose a tooth, you grow a new tooth. That sort of thing can happen with stem cells. And so that science is a whole new science. It's called senolytics. And Mayo Clinic has come in and been looking at that. And Mayo Clinic has looked at some compounds. They found one. I discovered that mechanism over 20 years ago, maybe almost 25 years ago with it, and now they've taken it to sort of another level. They're trying to make a prescription drug out of it too, because it's a natural ingredient with it. And now here Mayo Clinic says, we have the immortality molecule. Harvard says, we have the immortality molecule. And then I just heard an advertisement, I've seen some stuff today, a company that can make telomeres grow or long. Those are the tips on stem cells, chromosomes that are necessary to control rates of duplication, and we lose them as we duplicate more cells. So there's the science that won a Nobel Prize, and so now this company said, we have the immortality molecule. Harvard says, we have the fountain of youth. The telomere people say, we have the fountain of youth. Mayo Clinic says, we have the fountain of youth. Which is the fountain of youth? The, there are components of it. Do you want this or that? Do you want to take the stem cells that you have that are diminishing and bring them back, bring your biological factors back to where you were 20 again? Wham! Okay, there you have what the age pill supports the body to do. On the other hand, if duplication rate, if you could bring a cell back into good health, and just like in an airplane, if you had a rubber band in a plane that you wore, you wound up, and then there was a propeller and let it go, it would go very fast until the band lost strength as it unraveled. And it's the same thing with telomeres. As telomeres go down, your duplication rate goes down. So if you've got stem cells that are taking those cells in decline in senescence, and it returns as biofactors where they were like you were in your 20s again, and suddenly now you have telomere units that can drive rapid multiplication, and so you're moving along. But what about the field of dead or dormant stem cells? They ain't dead, but they are killing you because of what they're doing, and the immune system has become so deteriorated that it can't identify them. That's why they keep building up. That's what happens with cancer. We kill cancer cells all the time, but as we get older, our immune system gets worn out, and it doesn't have the ability to identify a lot of the cancer cells, so it can't keep up with it. Your immune system's down. It's worn out anyway, so it's not accurate in sensing it, and so you develop a cancer. It comes on. But we all have cancer cells. It's just that those things change. So if those things change, what can we do to add into our diets, into our supplements, into our health that encompasses all of that together? Well, we've got the answers for you. And the three, now we've advocated the triangle of life for a number of years now, and they said I came on and said the H pill is the greatest discovery in the history of human health. I believe it is. I believe it was. I believe it might not be now, because I look at telomeres. They're absolutely essential. It can't go without telomeres there. Well, we have TSX to support long telomeres. You want to keep them long? This is designed to support them to stay long so that you can have rapid division rates. So now we're doing that with H-pill with senescent cells. What about the dormant senescent stem cells that are using all the toxins and the oxidative stress that ages us, that causes most of the diseases, the major diseases we have? Well, here comes the concept of senolytics that Mayo Clinic's working on, but I've got senolytics, and if you can look at it in practical terms, on steroids. This formulation that I'm bringing out, we're calling Product X. It's not going to be called that. We'll have another name for it, but it is so powerful. It is so incredible, and what studies are showing, it is kind of like a bomb. It goes off. You take the ingredients in, and it goes down, and it supports the body's natural system to break down these stem cells, and then they're cleaned up by the immune system. And when they're cleaned up, guess what happens? they start popping back up. Now, it's not an overnight process, but if that field is building, you're having less and less active cells and more dormant cells. How about if we have more active cells and we're restoring them from this group? We're taking the ones that are there, making them function higher, and that's where we have the three greatest products in the history of human health: TH pill, TSX, and of course now Product X. But with it, I throw in the H2 stick, because hydrogen functions for it all. NAD creates the release of hydrogen alone, and what it's doing. Stem cells is vital for it within it. It is the most powerful antioxidant in the universe. It goes everywhere. It does so much. So if you take those four products and you take a look at it and you say, here I've got the H pill for declining stem cells. I got TSX to keep it running at full capacity. I've got Product X to take the ones that have been damaged to where they're non-functional and they're actually harmful, and to support the system to restore those to where they're supposed to be. And then you come in and you flood it with diatomic hydrogen throughout every single cell of your body. Where do you think you are? You're in a place that no other company in the world can put you in. No pharmaceutical company can do it, and I don't think they ever would even begin to approach. And if they did, the price would be so extraordinarily high. The ones that are looking at NAD, they're talking about $1,000 a month or more to use that product. We've got it better than they do, in my opinion, by far. I have 4 different sequences to do it. They have but one, and I use that one with it. But with doing that, we have the power in this to do things that can change your life. So I'd like to probably come on another time talk about something else a little bit with it, but I want to ask you all a question right now. If you see wherever you're at in life, if you're, let's say 40, 50, 60 years old, wherever you're at, you've seen the rate of decline in your health change dramatically from when you're in your 20s again, haven't you? So at that rate of decline, how many of you would like to live to be 120 as your aging kept declining at the rate it's going? Let's see by a show of hands. Not many hands, right? Who wants to be a very old, decrepit 120? But if you could live to be 120 and your health remained, let's just say, if you took it where you're at right now and you could maintain it until you were 120, how many of you would want to do that? See the difference? Almost all the hands go up. But there's a third option. Suppose you could take your current health and you could take that to where you're not going to just level it continually on. Suddenly you can start growing younger, more healthy, more revitalized, so that when you hit 120, it will be the new 60. How many of you will go for that? Well, all hands are up, virtually. So anyway, with that, that's what we're offering as the potential. I can't guarantee it. Our products haven't been tested to do it. The ingredients have had massive amounts of clinical research on the ingredients, but we can't make the claims from them when we put them in a formulation because of FDA regulations, so we can only say it supports. But now you have incredible, massive support. You can do the things. And if you take a look at it, and I've had some people say, well, I don't know if I can afford to take all the products. Can you afford not to take them? What do you think it costs you when you die? You lose everything. How about if you spend the last 10 or 15 years in some miserable nursing home? You know what that costs you? That costs you, the average right now in the nursing home, I just looked it up so I'd know today. It costs if you're in a semi-private room, it's $7,441 a month. If you're in a private room, it's $8,365 a month. Can you afford to take these products? Suppose you spend $150 or $200 on these products. Look at that comparison, $275 a day there, and for what it costs you one day in the nursing home. And I'll tell you what, if you've got anything, you go into a nursing home, they're going to sell your house, they're going to take all your assets to pay for that if you don't have it. And so everything that you've worked for all your life, all that energy, all those things you put in, all the hopes and dreams that you have are going to be just disintegrated. The legal system is going to take it, the government's going to take it, and the medical system is going to take it, but it doesn't have to happen. You have the ability to do that now within your hands. You have the power to do it because you have found the right company. You're at the right time, the right place, the right company. Is it right for you? Well, that's for you to choose and do. For those that don't, it won't. For those that do, the whole world is ahead of them. We are flying down the road to immortality, and where others are on the death slide, going down to an early death. When you die at 75 years old, the genetic potential is to live to be 150. So you die at middle age. You want to die at middle age and in 10 years in a nursing home, or do you want 120 to be the new 60? And what are we looking at with 150? Yeah, it's not just on the horizon. We can see it real well, and we're headed for that. And what happens when we hit 150? Well, Aubrey de Grey, who is the world leading scientist in longevity, says, the person born today with the technological advances that are happening should live to be 200 to 300 years. Okay, well, I wasn't born today, but I'll take another 75 or 100 years. You bet your biffy I'll take that. And I think that is the potential, the possibility we have. And it's not just the products we have. I think they can pretty well get us there, but more discoveries are going to make. And who's going to bring them to market? Our competitors? What a joke that is. Pharmaceuticals, what a scam that is with that kind of thing. It takes the power, the passion, the things that we have to do it, and that's what Sisel's all made of. But if you take all of that and you put it together, there's one factor that is the single most important that you could ever consider in your life, and that is that you are the most important factor in the company. All of this is done for you. It's designed to make you happier, healthier, wealthier, and with that, then this is a business of multiplication. You make other people, who make other people, who make other people happier, healthier, and wealthier. So we have a great mission on. This is one where you're not in competition with someone, you're working with someone to compete against the things that they don't want in life, death, financial restrictions, poverty, all of those kinds of things. They want energy, youth, vitality. We got it all, and it's all in Sisel. But you are the most important component. It's all done for you. It can't happen without you. So it's time to get your rear in high gear and get going because we're on fire. We're growing fast now. We're going to explode this next year, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years. You want to get on the train now that's going? You better get on if you can move slow, okay, move as fast as you can, but pretty soon with little baby steps, you ought to start taking strides, and then you ought to start to run, and it can happen if you keep doing it. If you quit, yeah, you're left at the station, but you're on the freight train to health, wealth, happiness, the road to immortality. You're not on the road, you're flying down it. If you want to buckle up and put on the products that it takes to do it, and it takes money to do it, that's easy. Everyone else wants these products. It doesn't take many people in your organization to generate you enough. Your first goal is to get your products for free, okay? That's pretty good for most people, but how if you made $500 a month? Geez, $6,000 a year, that makes a big difference in somebody's life. That's not that difficult. It just takes time and effort with it. How about $1,000 a month? That's very feasible too, and in fact, for some people, very rapid time. Then you start talking about some real money, $5,000, $10,000. We already have people that are making $30,000 or $40,000 a month in the company, and we're just beginning. So it's all here for you, but it's for you to do. So anyway, that's my message for today. I apologize for taking so much time, but I think you can feel I got fire in my belly, and it's here, and it's never going to end, and it's all here to help you to become all that you can be. Back to you, DW.
Tom Mower, absolutely.